He laughed at her dirty clothes. Then he found out who she really was. He first noticed her on a rainy afternoon, her clothes streaked with mud and worn thin. People hurried past, ignoring her, but he couldn't. There was something about the way she moved, head held high despite everything, that made him laugh in disbelief. "Look at her," he said to his friends, pointing at her tattered coat. "Doesn't she know how to dress?" She didn't seem to hear him. Her hands, rough and calloused, carried a small basket of fruit she was trying to sell. Every step was careful, measured, and somehow graceful. He felt a strange mix of annoyance and curiosity. How could someone so dirty look so dignified? Days went by, and he kept noticing her, sometimes from his car window, sometimes on his way to meetings. At first it was curiosity. Then it became something else, fascination. Something about her presence made him feel unsettled, as if he had stumbled into a world where appearances didn't mean anything. One day she dropped an apple on the wet street. Without thinking, he jumped out, picked it up, and handed it back. "Thanks," she said, her voice soft but firm, with a musical quality he couldn't forget. At that moment he realized that she was more than her dirty clothes. The more he watched, the more he noticed subtle signs. Shopkeepers secretly gave her discounts or small gifts. People in the background seemed to defer to her in ways he couldn't explain. He started researching her quietly, learning her name, her past, and discovering that despite her humble appearance, there was something extraordinary about her. He laughed at himself for being drawn to someone he had first mocked, but he couldn't stop. His obsession grew, and with it a sense of impending revelation. The world he knew, polished and filled with wealth, was nothing compared to the quiet power she wielded in anonymity. Weeks passed. He had watched her from a distance, learning her routines, studying her interactions. Every day he became more convinced that there was something unusual about her. She moved through the world unnoticed, yet somehow commanded respect wherever she went. People who barely knew her whispered when she walked by, their expressions a mixture of awe and fear. One evening, curiosity overwhelmed him. He followed her as she walked through the city, unnoticed in her ragged coat, until she entered a seemingly ordinary building. He expected perhaps a small apartment or a shelter, but what he saw was beyond anything he imagined. Inside, the plain exterior gave way to a world of luxury and influence. She moved confidently through corridors, lined with rare art and priceless artifacts. Staff bowed subtly, and meetings were conducted in hushed, reverent tones. He realized, with a jolt, that she was no ordinary street vendor. She was a woman of immense power, someone who had chosen to hide among ordinary people for reasons he could not yet understand. The next days were filled with tension. He tried to approach her, to confront the truth, but every attempt seemed to backfire. She was elusive, polite, yet deliberately distant. He overheard whispers that she was the heir to a vast fortune, a philanthropist who had built empires in silence. The more he discovered, the more he realized how blind he had been. His initial laughter now felt like a mark of shame. She looked at him calmly. "Because people judge what they see, not who someone truly is," she replied. "I wanted to know who would respect me for me, not for wealth, status, or appearance." He stood frozen, understanding crashing over him. All those moments he had mocked her, laughed at her clothes, ignored the dignity in her eyes. Every one of them had been a lesson he never expected to learn. She had orchestrated this, in a sense, to reveal the depth of human prejudice, to test the character of those around her. His world had shifted. The very foundation of his beliefs about people, success, and worth had been shaken. The girl in dirty clothes was not just a survivor. She was a master of life, a test of his morality, and a mirror reflecting his flaws. By the end of that encounter, he was no longer laughing. He was humbled, awed, and deeply moved. He realized that the world was far more complex than he had ever imagined, and that judgment based on appearances was not just foolish, it was dangerous. After that courtyard confrontation, he couldn't stop thinking about her. The world seemed smaller, harsher, and yet somehow fuller. Everything he had taken for granted, his pride, his judgment of others, his sense of superiority, was gone. Days later, he received an unexpected invitation, a simple envelope, unmarked, containing only a handwritten note. "Meet me at the old theatre at midnight. Come alone." Curiosity battled fear, but he couldn't resist. He arrived, finding the theatre abandoned except for her, standing in the dim light. Her clothes were no longer tattered. She had donned a simple yet elegant dress that reflected her true stature. "You've learned a lot," she said softly, her eyes studying him. "But there's one final lesson." He felt a shiver of anticipation. "What do you mean?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "The world will continue to judge, laugh, and dismiss based on appearances, but the choice to see truth, that is yours. Will you live a life blind to reality, or will you see with understanding and compassion?" He nodded, realizing that his entire perspective had changed. The girl he had laughed at, so humble, so seemingly ordinary, was a woman of incredible power and wisdom. She had tested him, shown him the depths of human prejudice, and revealed the consequences of shallow judgment. As she turned to leave, she paused. "Remember this: humility and respect are the true measures of greatness. Never forget it." He watched her disappear into the night, a mixture of awe, gratitude, and lingering disbelief. His life, once defined by pride and judgment, had been irrevocably transformed. If this story shocked you, imagine how many other people around you are hiding their true greatness. Don't judge by appearances. Look deeper. And if you want more unbelievable, jaw-dropping stories that will make you rethink everything you know, hit that follow button now and never miss a twist like this.